Hey everybody, Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the extraordinary honor and pleasure of catching up with bassist, sound designer, composer, and maker of musical instruments, Ksenia Vasileva. Yay!
Hey, hey Raul, thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
My pleasure. So, Ksenia, you've got so many things going on, but we like to go to the past. How did you get started in music and particularly on
My
bass?
journey goes way back to when I was around 5 or 6, when I started playing classical piano as, Russian girl supposed to do this. And it was fun. By 10 I was playing with symphony orchestra in a little town in the south of Russia. Afterwards, I picked up a classical guitar and got inspired by rock and roll, and then at some point after graduating high school, I was listening to the music and I was like specifically focusing on the bass lines, but I wasn't sure what it is exactly. And then while I was getting my first degree in public relations, I met people who were hosting a music studio for the purposes of the university. And I got involved and they were like, "Oh, you want to play bass? Here is your bass, go practice, you need to do this and that." So that's how I started, just by listening to the music and really wanting to do this specific thing. And a lot of people helped me out along the way. And 3 years in, I was touring Europe with my first band,
Wow.
which was not going to lectures at all. But it was probably one of the most fun and cheering and happy time of my life. The first touring experience, it was incredible.
Absolutely. Well, and it is kind of one of those journeys where you already knew how to read music. You had probably enough theory with the classical side of it. So it was just leaping to bass clef entirely for you. Now, you were playing, if I remember, in St. Petersburg
Right,
initially?
correct.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
from there, we fast forward to you came to the United States and went to Berkeley.
Yeah, so after St. Petersburg, I moved to Moscow because I felt I need to grow. That's where I got exposed to jazz and more advanced like pop artists, was touring with pop artists, and I felt I want to move on.
Hmm.
Yeah, I went to Berkeley. I applied for fun. I was 100% sure I'm not gonna get in.
Yeah.
Then I got in and I got scholarship. I was very lucky, and I think, but partially because it's not that many people come from Russia because it's way too far, too expensive. And for me, it was literally a dream. And
Yes.
all my friends were like so supportive. Everybody was, I mean, not I don't want to say jealous, but very supportive and be like, "Man, you're the one who's gonna make it." And I felt this honor to going to Berkeley and really digging in and learning and meeting all these fantastic people. It was incredible.
Absolutely. I
Well,
would say for the longest time, Berkeley's kind of had, I'll say, a reputation of being a little more jazz centric. They've expanded to a lot of other things. I know they have more of a hard rock and metal and all kinds of stuff that they do now. But more important than kind of the music is also the networking and camaraderie, all the people that you meet, and that expands your horizon. How was that experience?
oh, it was fantastic. I mean, especially with the teachers, because back home I would watch VHS cassettes of Victor Wooden and Steve Bailey, for example, and now I meet these people in person and we chat and they remember my name. That was the most fascinating moments because, and I could ask, any questions I wanted, and yeah, on the teacher's side. And then I met incredible just students who would jam and like make up music
Mhm.
together. It was great. Yeah, networking is probably at least a half of Berkeley experience.
Yes.
And yes, you can learn anything. There are metal, jazz, world music. I got exposed to microtonal music, which was at some point I got really into it. All the Arabic maqams, and which is like quarter tones.
Mhm.
If you play on fretless, it was. I dedicated a lot of time to that. It was very, very much mind blowing.
As you've again finished with Berkeley, some of the music I've been listening to, it sounds like you've got kind of a diversified portfolio. You've been playing with Camille Trust. That is kind of like almost, I'd say almost soul R&B kind of thrust. But then again, you've also played with Lincoln Goins, who is more fusion, kind of hardcore bass there. What are you doing musically currently? What are you involved in?
I think I'm more gravitating to groovy music, hip hop, soul, R&B, funk, I don't know, pop, rock. Less of a jazz, although it's fun to play jazz sometimes, but I feel like it's my comfort zone to play soul music. That's what I enjoy the most. And I got, involved with this kind of people like Camille and a bunch of others, soul artists and hip hop. I work with street dancers and we make music on the fly, which is another side of incredible music New York scene, which is like making music on the fly and it's soul and hip hop and it's just happening at the moment. And I think this is the most fascinating thing for me to discover in New York because I've never encountered this before when it's just people get together and create. It's not a free jazz, but it's like it's songs really, and
Mhm.
it's singers making up lines and it's all soulful. It was yeah, this is the best thing I have discovered in New York, probably
Interesting.
like going to Producer Mondays at New Bloom that's hosted by Ray Ingrid, pianist from The Roots.
Okay.
This was my church. I would go there every Monday. I would record the bass lines by Lex Sadler and go home and transcribe. And this was after Berklee, so I kind of learned as much while my time just getting to know New York as much
Absolutely.
as I learned at Berklee. So
Well, and that is a whole other scene, and kind of the love-hate about New York is that it's a hustle. Everybody, it's an ongoing, and it's beautiful from the point of view of all of your creative exposures and people that because you have an abundance of so much talent, but by the same token, since there's an abundance of talent, you're in there in the race to try. It's like a marathon race with so many runners. You're trying to maybe stand out or catch the attention or be involved in things, and so it certainly you do have a diversified background that you could, if needed. I'm sure you're good at probably reading if you chose to do Broadway shows if you needed to, or you could sit in with, XYZ band. You have that flexibility, and all of that background just helps support your musical creativity there.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's amazing being exposed to all this kind of different music. I have, I'm playing with 5 different artists in 1 week.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's on one hand it's great, but at the same time I feel I'm lacking this band sort of experience by being a
Hmm.
freelancer. Like back at home, we would just rehearse 4 times a week and make music together, and I don't have this experience at the moment, and I feel I'm missing that side. So it's a balance. It's a balance.
Gotcha. Well, and in that, who knows? In the networking, is a lot of times it's a question of being at the right place at the right time. You might catch the eye of some potential bandmates, and before you know it, you've got a band. I've interviewed players that went to Berklee and they met their bandmates in their first year and they never finished even the program at Berklee. They just said, okay, I came here to get in a band and now I'm in a band, so I guess I'm done. And then they went on and they never went back. So
Right. Yeah.
the future is possible. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about your sound designing and musical instrument making. I understand it's not as much bass as it is more synth kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So at Berklee, I did performance on the bass and electronic production and design major.
Okay.
And this is where I got exposed to like audio programming and sound design and modular synthesis, and I got fascinated by all of it. So there was a COVID while I was at Berklee, and it helped me actually to focus on that side because I wasn't playing around. It wasn't, there was nowhere to go.
Hmm.
So I kind of focused on the computer work, and yeah, I do like ambient music kind of thing. And then I used to work for this audio branding agency, Audio UX,
Hmm.
and we would do a lot of UX sounds for electric cars, for applications, phones, and stuff like that. So it's like it's like composing, but the composition consists of 2 to 3 notes,
Yes.
which is like very challenging. It's very niche and very interesting work. Actually, I enjoyed doing it.
Nice.
And yeah, I did yeah, a couple of VST plugins and the little hardware synth.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of work. I wish I could have done more of that, but again, it's you only have 24 hours. What
There
am
you
I gonna
go.
do?
Well, and again, even in that diversified portfolio, one of my favorite people, Mike Pope, I know
Yeah.
you know Mike,
Hmm.
his involvement in the electronic side in development, his preamps for bass and the pickups, and his work at Trickfish amplification, again, because of needing to be involved with that technical side of it, the electronic side of it. So it opens up some possibilities. And perhaps, again, when you have a group, if you're looking for a specific sound, maybe you can kind of custom tailor some of what you're doing versus just using what's available and kind of playing around with it.
Yeah, for sure. And especially these days, technologies are so advanced.
Yes.
You can, I mean, just make up an idea and it's all going to be possible with software like I don't know, Max, MSP, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, and we should talk, since we're talking about sounds, we should talk about gear. Bass wise, how are you getting your sound? What are you playing on?
I used to play Fender Jazz,
Hmm.
and then I realized it's too heavy for me. And then my friend put together for me incredible, funny instrument, and I'm gonna give away the recipe for it.
Yes.
It's $199 bass, Glary bass.
Yes.
So you put Linden Frillin
Hmm.
pickup on it. It's short scale, super light, and it sounds great for the purpose of running around between rehearsals and little gigs. It's awesome. That's what I've been playing most of the time. I think it helps me to practice the skill of carrying the sound in the fingers rather than relying on the instrument. Because I mean, of course, it's never gonna sound like P bass made in like '66 or something.
Yes.
But it's an interesting challenge to make any instrument sound good and any amp sound good regardless.
Hmm.
Sort of, yeah, this is all for my gear. I mean, I use like octave pedal and a little preamp, but that's about it.
Got you. Well, and especially if you're in New York, lugging around heavy amps and all kinds of stuff is not practical.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah, not at all. Yeah.
There we go. And on the Glary, it's very interesting you mentioned that because I actually had the opportunity to do a review on a Glary jazz bass. And you're very right. It's got a very low price point, but it basically had good bones. And so
Hmm.
structurally, lighter weight, which I did like. I've got a 5 string, and even the pickups it had stock weren't bad. Now I could see where you could do better with a Lindy Fralin or
Hmm.
Nordstrand or EMGs or something like that. But the significant change is actually it was very simple. Better strings. I put had the strings it had were straight to the garbage can.
Okay.
Those could not do anything. But also just working a little of the detail on smoothing frets because some of the frets were a little sharp.
Hmm.
Oiling up the fretboard because I believe it's rosewood. I mean, it's a really nice material. The fact that it has a plastic nut didn't bother me. I don't find it to be a sonic issue too much. And so I'm kind of like, okay, well, and the other additional factor is that if something happens to it, you can replace that very easily
Uh-huh.
and cost effectively as compared to a specific, let's say you had a Michael Pope Federa or something. Then you'd
Right.
be like, oh my God, I need a guard for my bass because
Exactly.
something could happen. Yes.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, for recordings, of course, I use my Fender. That sounds incredible.
Yes.
But yeah, running around. Interesting that Glary bass actually sounds good with um, original pickups. I have never heard because I got this bass
Yeah.
with a new pickup, but interesting. Yeah.
It was interesting, and it's a passive instrument, which is also kind
Right.
of like okay, this is very simple. I know I do like active and passive, but when it comes down to it, they're very very functional. Maybe if I
Uh,
get curious someday, I'll change out the electronics, but for now, it's working just fine as it is, and the sound is decent. It has its own sound, but the weight factor is something that I
Yeah.
think Fender has really never changed. I mean, I've picked up a lot of Fenders and I've always been impressed that they're heavy. And the older you get, that
Yeah.
is a big factor. And, nerve
Yeah.
damage and
Hmm.
back pain. And if you're doing long gigs,
Yeah.
it is something to be worried about. So as we look forward, because I'm sure again you've got so many possibilities ahead of you. What are your plans? What are you thinking of doing?
I got asked many times to perform my solo electronic project. And this has been a journey because I've been going back and forth between, okay, should I use a looping pedal? Should I use an Ableton? What exactly should I use in terms of technology?
Hmm.
So that's been a journey for me to figure out because loopers are they're limiting your possibilities. Ableton is like you have a computer on the stage, which I don't like. So I'm still kind of searching for my sound, I guess, because I like this mix of electronics and the bass and maybe having a drummer. So this is kind of work in progress,
Hmm.
and that's what I'm most excited about. And other than that, just playing around New York, really, and getting all these amazing opportunities and meeting all these fantastic musicians, which I'm super grateful. And like, if you told me 10 years ago you're gonna be gigging around New York while I was back in Russia, I would be like, are you crazy?
You never know what the
So
future
maybe,
holds. And if people want to know, because again, I do foresee there'll be some very interesting things. Who knows? Maybe you'll even join a band. Where would be the best place for people to look if they want to find out what you're up to?
I guess Instagram. Also have website. Instagram is I have weird tag which I made up years ago and never changed, which is mrs.esper.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be very mysterious creature. And my website is ksenia.io, which I'm coding myself. That's why it's looking a little weird.
Okay.
But yeah, I got into programming at some point and I wanted to, HTML it
Oh,
myself.
this that is a whole other rabbit hole, I tell you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you may be one of the very few people that has any interest in doing that I've spoken to.
Okay.
So many bass players are like, "Oh, no, it's a too technological. I'm going to delegate that to someone else." But anyway, Ksenia, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to share your journey, to talk to us about your music and your future projects. We're looking forward to great things from you, and we're going to make sure we hear from you in the future. Folks, you've seen her here on Bass Musician Magazine, Ksenia Vasileva.
Thank you very much for having me, Raul. All the best.
Thank you.